The phone rings while I'm checking quarterly projections at my desk. Raymond Wells, a name I don't recognize. I answer anyway. Miss Whitaker? Raymond Wells from Wells's Vault Pawn Shop. I'm calling about an Omega watch brought in yesterday. Has Time Reveals Truth engraved on the back. Our records show you as the registered owner? My coffee mug slips from my hand, shattering across the polished floor of my office. Coffee splashes my skirt, but I barely notice. What? No, that's impossible. I have it right here in my voice falters as panic swells in my chest. The watch, my father's watch, his final gift before cancer took him 4 years ago. I fumble with my desk drawer key, hands trembling so badly I drop it twice. When I finally wrench the drawer open, my stomach plummets. The velvet case sits empty, its blue interior mocking me. Someone pawned my father's watch? My voice sounds distant, like it belongs to someone else. Yes, ma'am. Got $9,200 for it. I noticed the engraving matched registration details. Something felt off. My throat constricts. That watch never leaves my drawer except for important meetings. The desk stays locked. Always. I'll be there within the hour. I hang up, staring at the coffee dripping onto the carpet. Dad gave me that watch the day before he died, his hand trembling as he pressed it into mine. This will keep time for you when I can't, he'd whispered, voice raspy from the cancer that had eaten him from the inside out. His eyes, sunken in his pale face, held mine with surprising strength. Remember, Rachel, time reveals truth. 8 months later, Mom remarried Craig Henderson, a widower she met at a grief support group. Sudden, but I told myself everyone copes differently. With Craig came Ryan, his 30-year-old son who moved into our childhood home with grand business plans that never materialized. Just temporary, Mom said. Until his startup took off. 2 years later, he's still there. I moved back temporarily 6 months ago after my apartment building sold. Just until I saved enough for a down payment. Now this. I grab my purse and storm toward the door, nearly colliding with my boss. Family emergency, I mutter, not breaking stride. At home, Ryan lounges on the couch, scrolling through his phone. He glances up, unconcerned by my thunderous expression. You went through my desk. My voice comes out steadier than I expect. You stole Dad's watch. Ryan shrugs, setting his phone aside. It's just a watch. Dad needed capital for our startup. Family helps family. That watch was from my father. It wasn't yours to take. Look. It was collecting dust in a drawer. He stands, stretching lazily. Dad and I have real investors interested now. That watch is actually doing something useful. Where did you pawn it? I step closer, my voice dropping dangerously. Wells Vault downtown. But don't bother, the paperwork's already done. He smiles, actually smiles. Besides, we got a fair price. Mom walks in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. What's all this shouting about? Ryan pawned Dad's watch. I say, watching her face for shock, for outrage. Instead, her expression tightens with annoyance. Oh, Rachel, don't make such a fuss. It's just an old watch. The betrayal hits harder than I expected. Just a watch? It was Dad's. His last gift to me. And now it's helping the family. She places a hand on Ryan's shoulder. Craig and Ryan's business could change everything for us. You're being selfish. I stare at them, these strangers in my childhood home. The walls that once held family photos now showcase Craig's fishing trophies. Dad's workshop converted to Ryan's home office. Every trace of Alan Whitaker methodically erased. That watch was never yours to take. I say, but they've already turned away, discussing dinner plans as if I'm not even there. Standing in what was once my sanctuary, I realize my father's memory isn't the only thing they're trying to erase. In their new family equation, I don't matter at all. And suddenly, I know this isn't just about a watch. This is war. The one I am going to win, although my family does not know it yet. Later that day, Wells's vault stands like a fortress among the downtown storefronts, all polished brass and aged brick. Inside, the scent of furniture polish mingles with the metallic tang of valuable items under glass. Raymond Wells meets me at the counter, his weathered face creasing with concern. Miss Whitaker, thank you for coming so quickly. He slides a document across the counter. This is the pawn ticket for the Omega. Your stepbrother took $9,200 for it. My stomach tightens. $9,200? What's it actually worth? Raymond adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses. Conservative estimate? Close to $30,000. Vintage Omegas in this condition are highly sought after, especially with provenance. Provenance? The word tastes bitter. Original box, papers, family history. Raymond taps a computer monitor, turning it toward me. I have security footage. Something didn't sit right when he came in. The monitor shows Ryan entering the shop, walking with that confident swagger I've come to despise. He removes Dad's watch from his pocket, not even bothering with the velvet case, and slides it across the counter with casual disregard. That's him, I whisper. Raymond fast forwards. This is where he claimed ownership. Ryan signs paperwork with a flourish, then pockets a thick envelope of cash. May I see those documents? My voice sounds hollow. Raymond hesitates before placing the papers before me. I immediately spot my signature at the bottom, except I never signed this. He forged my name. The words feel like stones in my mouth. Raymond nods grimly. I suspected as much. That's why I called you. Later that evening, I sit rigid at the dinner table. The familiar oak surface where Dad and I once worked on puzzles now feels like enemy territory. Ryan stands beside Craig's chair, both men nursing glasses of Dad's whiskey, another inheritance they've claimed without asking. Mom bustles between kitchen and dining room, serving them first while I sit isolated across the table. So, I begin, stabbing a piece of chicken. How was everyone's day? Ryan smirks. Productive. Closed a deal that's going to change everything. A deal involving my father's watch? I ask, my voice dangerously quiet. The room freezes. Mom's serving spoon hovers midair. Rachel. Mom begins, her tone the one she uses for difficult customers at her boutique. It was just sitting in a drawer. My locked drawer. In my room. Ryan shrugs. We needed capital. Dad's investor meeting is tomorrow. Your dad, I correct. And you forged my signature. Craig sets down his glass. I drove Ryan to the pawn shop myself. We're family, we support each other. By committing fraud? I look at Mom. How did he get into my room? Her gaze drops to her plate. I gave him the spare key. The betrayal slices deeper than I expected. You what? Rachel, Craig interjects, folding his napkin with deliberate precision. If you're really family, you'd be happy to contribute to our success. Contribute? He stole from me. Such dramatic language, Mom says with a nervous laugh. Nobody stole anything. Craig leans forward, eyes narrowing. Ryan tells me you've been saving quite a bit from your position at Hillcrest. Cold dread washes over me. That's none of your business. We noticed from your bank statements, Craig continues. They still come to the house, you know. Mom touches my hand. Sweetheart, your continued living arrangement here depends on your cooperation. We're family, we share resources. I pull my hand away, understanding dawning with horrible clarity. My temporary refuge has become a trap, with predators circling. I need some air. I push back from the table. Rachel, don't be childish, Mom calls after me. Outside, I gulp the cool evening air, my hands trembling with rage. My phone buzzes a text from Raymond Wells. 20 minutes later, I'm back in his shop after hours, the close sign hanging in the window. I found this inside the watch case. Raymond says, handing me a small folded paper. There's a hidden compartment in vintage Omegas like yours. I didn't mention it to your stepbrother. The paper feels impossibly light in my palm, yet weighted with significance. My father's neat handwriting covers the yellowed surface. Safety deposit box number 447, Western Trust. Key in cordless drill battery compartment. Time reveals truth. Love always, Dad. As I sat in my car clutching my father's note, I wondered, should I confront them immediately with this new evidence, or quietly follow my father's instructions without tipping my hand? The direct approach might be satisfying, but patience might reveal what else they've been hiding from me. I glance at the pawn shop, where Raymond watches from the window, concern etched on his face. Unlike my so-called family, this stranger has shown me more respect in one day than they have in months. The watch isn't just a timepiece. It's a message from my father, reaching across years to protect me still, and I intend to listen. Sunday dinner stretches before me like a minefield. Ryan stands at the head of the table, my father's chair, raising a glass of champagne that catches the light from the chandelier my dad installed when I was 12. To new beginnings, he announces, grinning at Craig and my mother. Thanks to some strategic investments, I've secured prime office space downtown for Henderson Solutions. My breath catches as I spot it, my father's Omega watch gleaming on Ryan's wrist, the band adjusted to fit him. The watch that Raymond had described in detail, that I've been planning to retrieve. The blue dial catches the light as Ryan gestures, the second hand steadily ticking away as if nothing is wrong. "Rachel?" My mother says, voice sharp with expectation. "Aren't you going to congratulate your brother?" The word brother lands like a slap. I look across at these three people, my mother's face tight with forced joy, Craig's satisfied smile, Ryan's smug confidence, and realize I'm utterly alone at this table. "Congratulations." I manage, the word ashen in my mouth. "Which investor came through?" Ryan taps my father's watch. Time was on my side. Later, I retreat to the garage, seeking refuge among my father's remaining tools. The garage still smells faintly of sawdust and machine oil, the only space they haven't completely colonized. I pull out my old toolbox, the red metal one Dad gave me for my 16th birthday, and immediately notice something wrong. The top tray sits slightly askew. Inside, my precision screwdriver set is missing 3 sizes. The measuring tape Dad engraved with "measure twice, cut once" is gone. The specialized wood chisel he taught me to use is nowhere to be found. Looking for something? Craig appears in the doorway, silhouetted against the kitchen light. "My tools. Someone's been through my toolbox." He shrugs. "Ryan needed a few things for the office. You weren't using them." My hand clenches around a hammer handle. "These are mine. Dad gave them to me." Craig's face hardens. "This is a family home, Rachel. We share resources here." That night, I drag my desk chair across the bedroom floor, wedging it firmly under the doorknob. The hollow core door wouldn't stop anyone determined, but it might give me warning. I've started sleeping with my purse under my pillow, keys tucked inside my pillowcase. The next morning, I buy a small leather-bound notebook, writing down everything that's disappeared. The watch, the tools, the antique letter opener from my desk at work, the pearl earrings that had been my grandmother's. I document overheard conversations. Craig and Ryan discussing liquid assets in hushed tones. My mother asking if they should talk to Rachel about her savings. I date each entry, each small violation. My world has shrunk to counting losses, to cataloging the siege of small things. Thursday evening, I check Dad's old power tools, wondering if they've been ransacked too. His cordless drill sits in its case, dusty but untouched. Something about the weight feels wrong. I open the battery compartment and find not only the spare key to his safe deposit box that I've been searching for, but something else, a small photo, worn at the edges. It's me at 10 years old, holding up a fish nearly as long as my arm, Dad kneeling beside me at the lake. On the back, in his precise handwriting, "My little watchkeeper." My throat tightens as I trace the faded ink. Friday afternoon, I return early from work, the house quiet except for noises from my bedroom. I push the door open to find Craig rifling through my desk drawer, my journal in his hand. "What are you doing?" My voice sounds foreign, dangerous. Craig doesn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He closes the journal calmly. "Just checking to see if you've been paying attention." "That's private." "In this family, we share resources," he says, gesturing to the room around us. "Your father never understood that. Always hoarding his little secrets, his little treasures." Something snaps inside me. Not the frayed thread of patience, but the chains of doubt. "My father understood everything," I say, stepping toward him. "Especially about you." Craig's eyes narrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means he knew who you were. Who you all are." I hold out my hand for the journal. He protected me even when he knew he wouldn't be here. Craig places the journal in my outstretched hand, but grips my wrist. "You think you're so clever, but remember whose roof you're under." I pull my arm free. Not for much longer. Saturday morning finds me back at Wells's vault. Raymond looks up from behind the counter, his weathered face brightening when he sees me. "Miss Whitaker, I was hoping you'd come back." I explain what I've seen my father's watch on Ryan's wrist, the forged papers, the systematic dismantling of my father's memory in our home. Raymond listens without interruption, then surprises me. "I can buy the watch back myself. No strings attached. That watch should be with someone who values it." I stare at him, this stranger who shows more respect for my father than my own family. "Why would you do that?" "Your father installed the security system in this shop 15 years ago. Best work I've ever seen. Wouldn't take full payment either. Said he'd just charge for parts because his daughter needed braces. He smiles slightly. Some debts can't be repaid with money. That afternoon, I research identity theft and fraud at the library, printing documents about family financial abuse. I make 3 phone calls to a lawyer, to my bank, to a real estate agent. Pieces beginning to move. Monday morning, I take the day off work and drive to Western Trust Bank, the safe deposit key cool in my palm. The bank manager looks up when I enter, a gray-haired man with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Rachel Whitaker? He stands, extending his hand. Frank Sullivan. I'd know Alan's daughter anywhere you have his eyes. I shake his hand, surprised. You knew my father? Frank smiles. He renovated my office when the bank expanded. Finest craftsmanship I've ever seen. He glances at my empty wrist. How's your father's watch keeping time these days? The question isn't casual. Something in his eyes tells me he knows exactly what I'm here for, and why. Time reveals truth indeed. Yet I am not giving up on my father's legacy. Later that day, the safety deposit box key feels heavy in my palm as Frank Sullivan guides me to the vault area. His eyes crinkle with recognition the same way they did when he asked about Dad's watch. Your father was something special, Frank says, his voice carrying the warmth of genuine memory. Fixed my office after that flood in 2018. Wouldn't take extra pay for rushing the job. I nod, throat tight with unexpected emotion. That sounds like Dad. The metal box slides from the wall with a satisfying weight. I place it on the private table, my hands steady now despite everything. The lock turns with a decisive click. Inside lies not the chaos I'd feared, but perfect order so like my father. I remove each item methodically, placing them on the table while capturing everything with my phone camera. A leather-bound notebook. A stack of bearer bonds secured with a faded rubber band. A sealed envelope with my name written in Dad's familiar block letters. This is everything he wanted protected, I whisper, more to myself than to Frank. Frank watches respectfully as I document each item. Would you like me to notarize this inventory? No charge, of course. You'd do that? His smile is kind. For Alan Whitaker's daughter? Absolutely. 20 minutes later, I have official documentation of everything in the box. Dad's foresight feels like his hand on my shoulder, steady and sure, guiding me even now. Back at work the next afternoon, I'm reviewing quarterly projections when Melissa from reception calls. Your brother's here. He seems upset. My stomach tightens. He's my stepbrother. I'll be right there. Ryan paces the lobby, face flushed. When he spots me, he points an accusatory finger. You stole documents from our house. Several colleagues glance our way. I keep my voice level. Not here, Ryan. The hell with that. You took Dad's papers. They belong to the family. Mr. Henderson, my boss Richard appears beside me, his expression professionally neutral. Is there a problem? Ryan straightens, adopting what I recognize as his investor meeting persona. My sister took important family documents. She's been at her desk all morning, Richard replies. And our security system shows you attempted to access this floor yesterday when Rachel was at lunch. The color drains from Ryan's face. I was just dropping off something for her. At her locked desk drawer? Richard raises an eyebrow. Perhaps we should review the footage. Ryan retreats toward the elevator, muttering something about family matters and misunderstandings. After he's gone, Richard turns to me. Everything all right, Rachel? I hesitate, then decide on honesty. Family complications. I'm handling it. We have secure storage lockers available, if you need somewhere for important documents. He lets the offer stand. Thank you. I might take you up on that. That evening, alone in my office after hours, I spread the notebook pages carefully. Dad's methodical handwriting fills each line names, dates, amounts. It's his client ledger, recording work completed and payments received, and payments still owed. I run my finger down column after column of outstanding invoices. Some small, a few $100s for minor repairs, others substantial thousands for complete renovations. All with notes. Client requested extension, payment plan arranged, check promised by end of month. Dad never pressed people when they were struggling. He understood hard times. When I read through my father's client ledger and saw how many people still owed him money, I wondered, should I pursue these debts to fund my independence? Or was it better to leave the past behind? Would collecting these final payments honor his work or just keep me tied to old wounds? The next afternoon, Dana Vasquez's office smells of coffee and leather-bound books. Her sharp eyes miss nothing as she examines the bearer bonds. These are absolutely valid, she confirms, setting them aside. Your father was quite thorough in his documentation. What about these? I slide the ledger across her desk. Dana flips through the pages, nodding slowly. Also recoverable. Statute of limitations gives you 3 years for written contracts in Colorado. Your father's records are impeccable. So I could collect these debts? You're the executor of his estate. Legally, these assets belong to you. Later, Frank introduces me to Elizabeth Chen at Western Trust's Financial Services Department. She examines the bonds with professional interest. Your father chose stable, conservative investments, she explains. These smaller denominations can be liquidated immediately. I stare at the numbers. Enough for first and last month's rent. Enough to escape. I'd like to cash one today, I say, selecting the smallest bond. 2 days later, I sign a 6-month lease on a 1-bedroom apartment 20 minutes from the office. The landlord hands me the keys with a smile. All yours, he says. You can move in this weekend. My phone buzzes with a text from my mother. Where are you? Ryan's investors are coming for dinner tonight. We need to present a united front as a family. 3 missed calls from her already today. As I pocket the keys to my new place, another text arrives. People are asking where you've been. Call me immediately. I turn my phone to silent and drive to a furniture store. My new life is waiting. The phone rings again as I'm selecting a modest dining table. Sandra's number. This time I answer. Rachel? Thank goodness. When will you be home? Her voice carries an unfamiliar anxiety. Ryan's big investor meeting is tonight. I won't be there, I say, the words surprisingly easy. A moment of stunned silence. What do you mean? Of course you'll be there. We're family. Family. The word sounds hollow now, emptied of meaning by their actions of betrayal. I have other plans. I run my hand along the smooth wood of the table that will soon be mine. Good luck with the investors. I end the call before she can respond and continue shopping for my new home, the one my father, in his quiet wisdom, made possible. On the confrontation day, the conference room door swings open without a warning knock. I glance up from my quarterly projections to find Sandra and Craig hovering in the doorway, their faces stretched into unconvincing smiles. Surprise visit, I say, not bothering to stand. Sandra places a small gift box on my desk, sliding it toward me with trembling fingers. We brought you something. I don't reach for it. The leather box sits between us like a landmine. Open it, Craig urges, his smile never reaching his eyes. They're darting around my office, lingering on the mahogany desk, the framed certifications, the view of downtown Denver. When I finally flip open the lid, a cheap imitation watch gleams under the fluorescent lights. The metal already shows wear marks at the edges. It's just like your father's, Sandra says, clasping her hands. Well, similar enough. $30 at the mall kiosk isn't just like a vintage Omega. I close the box with a snap. Craig leans forward, lowering his voice. Listen, Rachel. We know things have been tense lately, but family sticks together through rough patches. He clears his throat. Speaking of rough patches, Ryan's business is facing some temporary cash flow issues. Is that right? I keep my voice neutral. Just until the next investment round, Craig continues. If you could loan him some funds, we noticed your last bank statement showed a healthy savings account. You're still opening my mail? The rage I've been containing for weeks rises in my chest. Sandra interrupts. We thought since you're doing so well here, her eyes flick to my office, you might help family. I let the silence stretch between us until Craig shifts uncomfortably. I've been busy lately, I finally say, opening my desk drawer. Working with some interesting people. I slide a manila folder across the desk. Inside is the police report with Ryan's signature on the pawn slip, his handwriting unmistakable on the ownership transfer form. Dana Vasquez, attorney at law. I say, tapping my finger on her business card paperclip to the folder. She specializes in recovering stolen property and prosecuting identity theft. The color drains from Craig's face. Now wait a minute. I've already filed charges for identity theft and fraud. I continue, my voice steady as a metronome. The detective said family cases are the most straightforward to prosecute, something about betrayal of trust making conviction rates higher. Sandra reaches for the folder with shaking hands. Rachel, you can't possibly. Raymond Wells was quite helpful, I continue. Especially when I showed him the original purchase documentation Dad kept in his files, the ones you didn't know about. This is ridiculous, Craig sputters. It was just a watch. It was never about the watch. My voice doesn't waver. It was about respect. For me, for my father's memory. I gather my papers into my briefcase. Now if you'll excuse me, I have an appointment. With who? Sandra demands, panic edging into her voice. With Ryan's investors. I leave for the meeting, leaving them in bewilderment. Later that evening, after the meeting and all the work was done, voices drift from the dining room as I let myself into my childhood home. The table is set with Mom's good china, crystal wine glasses catching the light from the chandelier. Ryan stands at the head of the table, gesturing animatedly to three men in business suits. The market potential is completely untapped, he's saying as I step into the doorway. His voice falters when he spots me. Raymond Wells enters behind me, followed by Dana with her briefcase. The conversation dies. Rachel, Sandra says, rushing forward, we weren't expecting you for dinner. I walk to the table and place my father's Omega watch in the center of Ryan's presentation materials. The engraving catches the light. Time reveals truth. What's this about? One of the investors asks, frowning at Ryan. Just a family misunderstanding, Ryan says, attempting to sweep the watch aside. Dana steps forward, placing copies of the police report beside each investor's plate. This is the signed pawn slip, where Mr. Henderson fraudulently sold property belonging to Miss Purder, Whitaker, after forging her signature on ownership transfer documents. Ryan fumbles for words. I can explain. What kind of business are you running? The oldest investor stands, folding the report. Craig jumps in. Gentlemen, this is merely a family matter that got out of hand. Fraud is never merely a family matter, the second investor says, already reaching for his coat. Within minutes, the dining room empties of investors. Ryan slumps in his chair, staring at the watch as if it might bite him. Sandra grabs my arm. Rachel, please. Tell them this is just a misunderstanding between siblings. I gently remove her hand. Family doesn't steal from family. My father taught me that. Craig points toward the door. You've ruined everything. Years of work. No, I say quietly. You did that the moment you decided my inheritance was yours to take. In the following days, Ryan's startup collapses completely. The investors withdraw, citing character concerns in their formal letter. My phone fills with voicemails from Sandra, first pleading, then angry, then pleading again. You've always been so selfish, she says in one message. The next day, please, Rachel, we need to talk. I delete them all without responding. A week later, I sit alone in my new apartment, finally reading through Dad's letter found in the watch's hidden compartment. Most of it I'd already known, his love, his pride in me, his hopes for my future. But the final paragraph stops my breath. The cabin in Silver Pine is yours now, watchkeeper. It's not much, but the deed is in the safety deposit box. Mom and I were happy there, before the cancer. Maybe you will be too. I stare at the faded ink. A cabin, in Dad's hometown, a place I never knew existed. For the first time in months, I smile. Not everything had been stolen after all. They don't know who they are messing with. 6 months later, I have finally completed my task and protected my father's legacy. At the present, the brass bell above the door chimes as I unlock my new office. Morning sunlight streams through the windows, casting golden rectangles across the polished hardwood floor. Whitaker and Values Financial Advisory reads the etched glass door my name alongside the principle that matters most. I run my fingers along the freshly painted hunter green walls of my father's childhood neighborhood. The space smells of possibility coffee brewing in the kitchenette, leather-bound portfolios stacked on my desk, and just a hint of the lemon polish I used on Dad's old bookcase. Miss Whitaker? Your 9 o'clock is confirmed, calls Dana from the reception area. Her voice carries differently here than it did in her attorney's office 3 months ago when we filed charges against Ryan. Thank you. I answer, straightening the frames on my wall, Dad's contractor's license beside my financial advisor certification. Once, I'd have whispered that response, eyes downcast. Now, my voice fills the room with authority I've earned through fire. The phone rings twice before I answer. This is Rachel Whitaker. Rachel, your client questionnaires came back. I've scheduled the Hendersons for Thursday, Dana says. She handles client intake now, having traded corporate law for a partnership in my fledgling firm. Her legal background gives our financial planning an edge competitors can't match. Perfect. The couple with the underwater mortgage? I think we can restructure their debt without sacrificing their retirement timeline. Words that would have terrified me 6 months ago confronting financial realities. Delivering difficult truths now flow with confidence born of necessity. A shadow darkens my doorway. Ryan stands there, hands shoved into his pockets, shoulders hunched beneath a wrinkled button-down. The startup failure left hollows beneath his eyes. Rachel, he begins, voice straining for its old confidence. I wanted to make amends. Maybe we could talk? I've been thinking about what happened with the watch and 6 months ago, I'd have stammered excuses, desperate to escape confrontation. Today, I stand taller behind my desk. I'm not angry anymore, Ryan, but this is my workplace, and you need to leave. My voice remains steady, neither harsh nor apologetic. Simply true. His face flushes. Mom said you might help with. I have clients waiting. Goodbye, Ryan. He leaves without another word. Through the window, I watch him walk away, shoulders slumped. There's no satisfaction in his defeat, only relief in my freedom. That evening, Raymond arrives carrying a polished wooden box. Frank follows with a bottle of champagne, and Dana brings cupcakes decorated with tiny watches. To Whitaker and Values, Frank raises his glass. The bank manager who recognized me months ago now refers clients my way. Your father would be proud. Raymond slides the wooden box toward me, a gift for the occasion. Inside rests a glass display case, simple yet elegant. The brass plate on the base reads "Time reveals truth" in flowing script. For your father's watch, Raymond explains, the rightful place for a family legacy. When they've gone, I carefully place Dad's Omega in the illuminated case. The leather band has been restored, the face polished to a gleam. In the appointment book beside it, I spot names I recognize from Dad's old ledger, former clients who've sought me out upon hearing a Whitaker was back in business. I adjust the watch in its new home, admiring how the light catches its face. As I do, I wonder about the true value of inheritance. Is it the objects we leave behind, or the values we instill? What would you fight hardest to preserve from those who came before you? The door chimes again. My first official client has arrived. I turn from the watch, straighten my jacket, and walk forward to greet them with the quiet confidence that is my father's greatest gift.